Hello everyone, it's me Trisan Wagle and I'm from Softwarica College of IT and E-commerce. And this is my analytics presentation for the DataWave Analytical Challenge, the IoA Autumn 2025 Student Sprint. So in this project, I wanted to go beyond just data cleaning and finding out the churn or calculating the churn. So my actual goal was to understand why people actually stay on a specific platform, why people actually leave, why people upgrade or switch to different alternatives of the current platform using obviously the data and behavioral economics, cognitive biases, cultural patterns, and different patterns like life cycle patterns, demographics, and all. So this data set had around 700 records. And after cleaning the data set and all, I figured out some of 570 listeners across 9 countries. And before analysis, I had to make a few important decisions that shaped the entire approach of the analysis lifecycle. Some of the important decisions that I had to make during this analysis project. The decision that I had to make was while creating the satisfaction scores in this data set, the satisfaction data looked okay on the surface level, but the behavior didn't match actually while performing analysis. High satisfaction users churn just as much as the low satisfaction users. So I had two choices, either to trust the scores or treat them as like unreliable self-reported sentiment, which does not support churn as a whole. So I obviously chose the second one. So this decision also uncovered another insight. That's the biggest insight, that sentiment is not a loyalty for this data set. And another decision that I had to make was by cleaning the skip rate. So skip rate came in messy formats like something where 10 as a string, 5% in string, and somewhere 0.2. So instead of dropping them, I normalized everything to 0 to 1 scale. So this was crucial because skip behavior turned out to be a very strong uneasy signal while doing the analysis of this data set. And the final decision that I had to make was, which was kind of difficult for me, was either to include the cognitive biases or not. So this was the biggest strategic choice in this process. So analytics tasks usually stop at just numbers, but real companies in the real world, what I heard was that they need analysts who understand the human psychology, who understand the human behavior, who understand why people actually do the things that they do. So that's why I integrated cognitive biases heavily in this analysis project, like status quo bias, sunk cost fallacy, social proof, choice overload, and many more, to explain why users behave irrationally, which supports the biggest insight and which supports the entire analysis process. Okay, so this is where I have put down all the data set details and all which was used in this analytics task. So altogether 570 users data was finalized after cleaning across the 9 countries. And I have put down the data foundation and methodology, all about what were the demographic signals and all, and how I prepared the data, how I cleaned the data. So here's my cleaning workflow. So but basically what I have done is that different standardized different type of variables into single one. For example, some were premium, some were prim. I made them premium. Some were students, some were in the wrong spelling. I made them all standard ones, and also skip rate into 0 to 1 scale, and every other variables to a standard one. So I also engineered different other variables to support my analytics task, which are shown here. So different biases or the limitations of this data set were that just 570 data was left after cleaning. So this was very limited for like a machine learning model or a granular complex modeling, but it was like okay for a directional insight, which shows why the thing is happening, right? So yeah, so that's the thing. So now in the overview part, so let's start with an overview. DataWave has an overall churn rate of 30.09%. The retention is around 69%. Users listen about 10.09 hours, which means 10 hours a week, with an average experience score of 3.2, around 3.19. So key insight here is that experience score looks okay, but churn is still high. This already indicates that satisfaction alone is not driving the loyalty, not driving the churn rate, right? So let's move to the satisfaction retention paradox. So this is the chart of the satisfaction versus the churn rate. So this chart is the most counterintuitive finding. Users who give score of 4 or 5, 4 and 5 churn just as much as the users who give score of 1 and 2. This is where the psychology explains the behavior. Highly satisfied users have slightly above rising expectations. They also confidently explore different competitors of the current platform. And exiting users often report higher scores to appear polite. Meanwhile, unhappy users stay due to friction and playlist investment, which means that they can't leave their playlist or different preferences, which is a status quo bias if we talk about cognitive biases. So let's move to the regional and age risks. So here are the different for Ghana, Brazil, South Africa, and Nepal. So churn is not uniform. Ghana, Brazil, and South Africa show the highest risk, above 34%. This is linked to price sensitivity, mixed market maturity, and unstable expectations. But Nepal has the most stable churn rate, according to the data. So age-based risk profile shows another U-shaped pattern. Teens churn due to novelty seeking and switching behavior, and older also churn the most due to maybe value reassessment. But the middle-aged ones are kind of stable one as compared to the teenagers and the older one, right? So both entry-level and mature listeners need a specific value propositions tailored to them. These behavioral explanations add depth beyond just the numbers. So here is correlation snapshot as well, which means that churn is not just driven by a single specific variable or a single specific factor. It is combined by these factors as well as different context and the human behaviors, including their cultural dynamics, cognitive patterns, and all, just not a single behavioral metric, right? So let's move to the churn analysis. So let's look at churn, how churn behaves across different variables in the data set. So, okay, so here is the subscription table, right? So in the subscription table, we can see that the interesting twist is that the premium and the student churn more than the free or family users. This goes back to the expectation lift. When you pay, your tolerance drops, right? If you pay more, then you can't tolerate. So that's why premium users have a slightly higher churn rate than other kind of users. And the composite risk score captures multi-dimensional churn. High risk users hit 50% churn. So paid tiers, premium and student churn more than the free users. Higher expectation that obviously increased choice sensitivity accompany paying customers, right? So obviously, okay. So let's move on to this type of skip rate, risk score effectiveness, right? So here we can see that when the skip rate increases, it often reflects content mismatch. Like users skip more and more and more if the songs or if the music disengages them over the period of time. So impact is on here. So yes, so I have also put down the risk score effectiveness chart, which shows the composite risk score, combining the skip rate, satisfaction, and all score to see whether it affects the churn heavily or not. So yeah, so we can see that instead of using the single variable for comparing the churn, when we combine different variables, then we can see slightly comparable kind of scores and the churn rate for different kind of scores. Okay, so to analyze the cross-segment view, we can see that the premium teenagers, the premium teenagers, and the older users, which have a family plan, are the most fragile groups. So it means that the data wave should focus more on the premium teens and the old age ones who uses family plan and target them so that all the features and everything is tailored and aligned to them, right? So this also shows another part of analytics. So let's move to cultural dynamics. So culture obviously plays a huge role in different user behaviors. So you can see that collectivist regions like India, Nepal, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria have comparatively lower churn rate because in this kind of regions, decisions are often shared, which is a social proof effect. They believe in word of mouth. And individualist countries like US, United Kingdom has slightly higher than the collectivist regions because here plans and choices are often based on personal preferences and convenience rather than shared decision. And in the mixed context, like Brazil and South Africa, the churn rate is the highest because we can't predict their behavior. They have also social influence, they have also personal preference, and also price sensitivity, which drives the churn rate highest among all the kind of countries. So I have also created a dot chart to analyze the regional churn mix. So in Europe and North America, you can see that in the Europe and the Latin America, North America, individual preferences dominate, which raise the expectations, right? And for the Brazil and South Africa, it behave like transitional markets where strong price sensitivity and some social influence lead to a higher churn. So to compare the market type comparison among developed and emerging countries, where developed countries are US and UK and others are emerging countries, we can see that churn rate is highest among the emerging countries as compared to developed ones, right? And the average listen hours are also lower in the emerging countries. So emerging market, they basically lean towards personal preference, and also price is very sensitive among emerging markets. That's why churn rate is higher as compared to developed ones. So developed markets show a bias towards personal preferences, and obviously they use premium subscription, and they have higher willingness to pay if it works as expected. So that's why churn rate is lower, and the emerging markets have higher churn rate. Uh, Obviously, the same table has been shown in this bar chart here, comparing the developed markets versus the emerging markets, where the churn rate is almost similar, but slightly in the emerging markets, the churn rate is higher. So to talk about the regional behaviors, we can see that in the Africa and Latin America, Africa has the highest number of users and also the highest churn rate. So, and the Latin America has also highest churn rate as compared to Europe, North America, and South Asia. So, what it means that we should focus on Africa and Latin America. So, DataWave must focus on Africa and Latin America and make their features better so that the churn rate drops and the churn rate improves. So, I have also provided different insights here based on my research and analytics that for Africa, DataWave should focus on the low data models, offline features, and mobile light UX because most of the users in Africa are mobile first. That's why we should focus on mobile devices in Africa region. And for the Latin America, what we can do is that we should tailor some different kind of packages, bundles, or local artists of the Latin America so that the social listening experience is improved and the churn is improved as well. So in Europe also, churn rate is kindly higher, which is greater than 30%. So we should, in Europe, we should maintain high quality of the music stream, advanced features, and different kind of plans tailored to the specific users because their expectations are high, and also they also will to pay more if their expectations meet. So by applying this kind of techniques, the DataWave can target Africa, Latin America, and Europe and improve the churn rate in those kind of regions. So let's move to cognitive biases. So I have like highlighted here that cognitive biases are used just as interpretive frameworks to make sense of why the users do the things that they do. So they do not prove anything, like they do not diagnose the specific individual, but explain why a group of users or user might behave like the way they are behaving in different ways. So instead of just numbers for the analytics, we are integrating the human behaviors or psychological thinking in this as well. So status quo bias, it means that people often prefer not to change the services even when alternatives might serve them better. It means that if something is already relevant to me, then if new thing comes also, then I won't be changing, right? So you can see that 68 users in this data set, 68 users with almost a year plus of tenure, but having a low satisfaction are still active. Why? Because they have already invested in our application. They have already made their playlist. All the algorithms, the recommendation algorithms are recommending the music that they want to listen. So they are fearing of losing the playlist, personalization, and all. That's why, due to status quo bias, they might not be willing to change or go to other alternatives, right? So here is a sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy means that high-paying, unhappy users continue because of past investment, because they have already purchased different kind of packages previously as well. So due to this behavior and this thinking, even though they are unhappy, they tend to not go to the other platforms. So in this data set, what I found that almost 69 users who pay more than $9 per month is still having a low satisfaction, remain subscribed. They have not churned yet. So this sunk cost effect is also making them staying on this platform. So another cognitive bias is the social proof, which means that regions copy locally dominant plans, right? So people are influenced by what their friends, peers are using. So if my friend says something like, I am using this, then I will obviously be trying that. So South Asia primarily prefers family plans. Africans users combines free family tiers, while Europe heavily towards premium, but the countries that are emerging countries, they are the real ones who uses the social proof cognitive bias. So what DataWave can do is that while targeting this kind of South Asia and African users, targeting specific kind of geographic area and region should highlight the locally popular plans or local artists or local playlists and tailor different regional packages and collaborate with different local artists to create music and target those specific kind of people who are influenced by what their friends, family, and peers are using. So basically, this is the localization. So localization is required, right? So let's move to anchoring and first impressions. So what findings I made is that the recent cohorts who joined after 2023 has lower churn rate than those ones who joined before 2023, which may suggest that the onboarding process and the new maybe UI or the new experiences are improving, while the experience before 2023 was not good. That's why who joined later have a lower churn rate, and who joined before 2023 has a higher churn rate. So another cognitive biases that may drive the churn rate that I have analyzed is that the choice overload. So after analyzing the data, what I found out was 40 free users who listen more than 10 hours per week still do not upgrade, and so a churn rate of 32.5% is, which may suggest that there are too many plans on the DataWave platform, and after getting too many choices, the human mind is overloaded and it makes them unclear, and they cannot decide whether which package to buy, and they end up buying no any package. So highly engaged free users hesitate to upgrade because they have too many options. So what DataWave must do is that they need to figure out what are the most reliable plans that we can place, like targeting the specific region and targeting the specific kind of people, and just providing maybe 2 or 3 packages so that choice overload can't happen and they can easily decide on which package to buy. So if all these cognitive biases are taken on mind while upgrading or while making the DataWave platform more efficient, then the DataWave may improve the churn rate. So let's move to the cohort performance analysis. So I have Sorry. So I have analyzed analyzed the data set and created different charts and tables to sort the findings. So main findings basically for the cohort performance trend analysis is that newer cohorts, the newer ones who joined just now or after 2023 churned less, meaning that the product improvements are working. So if any improvements are made by the data web, then the improvements are working because the one who have joined after 2024, you can see after 2023 has a lower churn rate, which means the year after while analyzing the yearly cohort summary, the churn rate is improving while the year is coming like here is him. So in the previous years, the churn rate is higher, right? So which means that improvements are working. Your cohort churn is likely due to better onboarding, product iteration, maybe any improvements that they made are working after analyzing this data. So to see the risk zone, most users that churn is between the period of 6 to 12 months. That's why in the beginning I said that 6 to 12 months is the risk period or the danger zone. So what we need to do is we need to provide like different kind of, let's say, offers or discounts or different kind of loyalty programs between this period. So maybe on the month 7 or month 8, we can launch different programs targeted to the new users and different loyalty programs, maybe different programs that can benefit the user. Even if we face some kind of loss on cost or loss on revenue, we need to target this high risk level window 6 to 12 months, maybe at around 7 months or 8 months of the new user signed up. We need to provide different kind of loyalty programs so that the churn rate may reduce, right? So this seasonal and quarterly patterns show that in every year, in around quarter four, which is from October to December, the churn rate is highest. Why? Because this is the time where the year ends, where the year ends. So in the end of the year, what people do is that they clear up the budget and they clean up they stop all the subscriptions and they don't subscribe just because human minds work like that, and they think that let's see, we'll subscribe the new plan on the next year. So maybe most of the peoples make New Year resolutions, and some might say that in this new year I will buy the subscription of the DataWave. So that's why in the quarter one, that is from January to March, the churn rate is the lowest because the boost from the New Year resolutions and also fresh routines. So human mind thinks like that. So like let's say from Sunday I will be doing this. From let's say first of this month I will be doing this. From the new year I'll be doing this. So human mind work like that. That's why in the quarter one the churn rate is the lowest, and in the quarter four, which is the end of the year, the churn rate is the highest. So what we can do is that in this also, like we launch different kind of campaigns here, we can launch different kind of campaigns between quarter 3 to quarter 4. We can launch campaigns on the month of September or the month of October to retain the users and reduce the churn rate at the end of the month or at the end quarter of the year. So that's my recommendation based on my analysis for the data web. So let's see the strategic actions, actually the recommendations that I made after my whole analysis. So I have structured this into different time horizon: immediate focus, short-term moves, long-term initiatives, and success metrics that we should track. So talking about immediate focus, 0 to 3 months, what we should do is that we should stabilize the high-risk segments, right? And we need to defense the quarter four churn, the year-end churn by deploying different kind of campaigns. And we need to move beyond just satisfaction-based KPIs like tenure, skip rate, because they individually don't cause the churn rate anymore. So behavioral churn models, scores from this behavioral churn models alone does not satisfy this. So we need to move beyond this kind of KPIs if the focus is on immediate things. And for the short-term moves for around 3 to 6 months, we can publish different kind of regional playbooks targeting Africa and Africa, South Asian countries, or the emerging countries, so that we can retain the users from there. And for the Europe, highest quality may guarantee the retention. So what we can do is that we can simplify the free subscription to paid subscription path, and also we can do a personalized check-ins at 6 to 12 months, which I showed here that at around 6 to 12 months the churn rate is the highest. At around the end of the year the churn rate is highest, and obviously in the emerging countries the churn rate is the highest. And also for the age group of these people buying these plans have the highest churn rate. So targeting them, we can provide different kind of we can launch different kind of campaigns, different kind of discount programs, different kind of subscriptions, and different kind of features tailored to the specific context and the cultural context to retain the users and improve the churn rate. So to see about the longer term strategic actions that we can take is that we can increase the switching costs through playlists, archives, social features, and all, which can deepen the emotional connection within the platform, right? And also we can build a proxen grade churn model. So combining different kind of skip behaviors, different all the metrics to trigger what actually like drives the churn, right? And also the cultural localization that I said, that all the UI messaging tone, maybe language support, maybe voice assistant support on their local language. For example, I am from Nepal, so if I have a voice assistant, or if I have a UI that I can use in my local native language, then I will be using the platform more and I will not be leaving this platform. So content promotion to each region might help. So localization is the main thing. And the success metrics to track the performances are overall churn rate, which is currently around 30%. So targets should be less than the 25% so that the data wave is successful. And high risk segment churn is around 42% as of now. So it should be reduced down to 35%. Free to paid conversion is not yet analyzed or not yet available due to the limitation of the data, but it should be greater than 15%. So migrating from free service to paid service should be easy. And 6 to 12 month retention, currently 68%, it should be greater than 75%. As we can see that around 6 to 12 months, we are losing 32% of the users, right? 32% churn rate. So what we should do is that around 6 to 12 month of time period, we should increase it, the retention rate, to around 75%. So main takeaways from this analysis, where sentiment is not equals to loyalty, right? Context shapes the behavior. Context like regional context, cultural context, behavioral context are essential, but not optional. Biases, the cognitive patterns are the main drivers. This explains why user behaves like that, why user stays, why user leaves the platform. And the timing also matters, because as we saw, around 6 to 12 months, churn rate is the highest. And at the end of the year, due to year-end budget cleanup, the churn rate is the highest. So timing also matters. Sorry. So to conclude, churn is not just a metric, it's a psychological journey that is driven by different cognitive patterns as well as different timing or tenure patterns. By combining data, behavior, culture, cognitive biases, we can actually design interventions that actually match how user thinks, right? So as before I said, sorry, as before I said that I wanted to go beyond just cleaning data and calculating churn. Instead, my goal was to understand why people actually stay, live, upgrade, or switch different kind of platforms. So using data, behavioral economics, and cognitive patterns, I analyzed and figured out why are people actually staying on the platform? Why are people actually leaving the platform? Why are people upgrading or switching to different kind of platforms? Which is driven by this cognitive patterns. Thank you, everyone. This was my submission for the DataWave Analytics task.